Assalamu alaikum and welcome everyone. My name is Esam Mahmoud. I'm the SVP SMB and Etisalat. Thank you for joining our SMB Talk program. The SMB Talk is a great platform that will enable us to stay connected and keep our dialogues with our market expertise. The current crisis forced us to live in exceptional times, and many businesses have been impacted with different level of impact. Not only that, it has also changed our social life. It's changed our social life with our families, with our friends, and even with our business colleagues. We do understand that the severity of the business and its shared responsibility for all of us on how to overcome the crisis. Most businesses are trying their best to navigate and pass the challenges they are facing through this platform, the SMB Talks. What we are aiming for is to be the partner with our clients and different verticals. So every aspect of the talk throughout the series will feature conversations with an expert from a different industries vertical, in the hope that the business will have and will find a value and gain knowledge on how successful they can go through these situations. To talk about this and more, please let me welcome our expert for this session, Mr. Dhiraj, the MD of Business Marketing in RAKBANK. Please welcome Mr. Dhiraj. Assalamu alaikum, Dhiraj.
Thank you, Esam. Thanks for your kind words.
It's been a while since we had last talked to each other, and it's our really pleasures of sparing some of your time to be part of this series of SMB Talks. Thank you very much, Dhiraj, for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Most welcome. Dhiraj, with the current situation and with the crisis of COVID-19, we all know that it has been impacted the economy, has impacted the business in different verticals, and also the banks and the SMEs. So as an expert on these markets, with the banking as being the backbone, being the most important element of the business customers, how do you see that this crisis has impacted your company?
Yeah, Esam, any organization, be it small, big, private or government, banking or commercial, has been impacted. So bank was no exception. But the difference with banks were the bank had to run. There was no choice because bank facilitates economic activity in the country and banks needed to run. So on the immediate level, we saw continuity of operation was the paramount priority. And at first stage, we made sure that we achieve continuity of operations. So that was the first challenge, that in the lockdown with so many restrictions in place, how do you continue providing banking services to your clients? On the business front, as you know, that banks are a function of economic activity in the country, and if the economic activity has been impacted because of the restriction and lockdown, the business also gets impacted. But as we see the lockdown getting eased out, we will see slowly and steadily normalcy will keep coming, and so will the banking activity will keep coming again.
That's great news. Dhiraj, and now the crisis has been almost 3-4 months. So I'm sure that as a RAKBANK and as a head of business, also there are lots of lessons has been learned throughout this period, and also there are lots of initiatives has been implemented that has impacted the clients. So as an expert for RAKBANK, can you please share with us a couple of those lessons and initiatives has been implemented that's affected the business, and you think that will be continuing for this business customers to have it?
Yeah, interesting one is the first and foremost learning was you can't plan enough for such a pandemic. Even if the banks are regulated setup, and officially every bank needs to have a BCP plan for things like this, but this was unprecedented. The scale and magnitude of this pandemic was so much so that any organization could not have planned for that. So our learning was that BCP is not a buzzword, it's a real help. So you should have in place, whether it's a small organization or a big organization. Second learning was that the concentration of your supply chain or your vendor services, for example. If you have only one supplier or only one IT vendor provider, then something that your services can get disrupted. Third learning was that despite all the big word and impact of technology, people still are very important. It's actually people who overcome the fear and fear of unknown and render the product and services. Machine alone could not have done this if we didn't have the support of people we work with. So salutation and thanks to our staff and customer who had made this possible. On the initiative front, as Esam, you would have seen in your own enterprise, that in such times the safety and well-being of customer and staff becomes primary. Then how do you make sure that your staff and customer remain safe? So that was the first priority. So the first initiative we took is to send all our back office operations starting work from home. For the customer facing units like branch, we had made alternate arrangements so that the customer can do most of their services over digital channels. We enhanced the limits available to them so that they can bank remotely and they don't need to come and stand in the queue in the branches. And the third initiative, which was a direction from the government themselves, is to provide relief to the customer. In such times where cash flow gets severely impacted, what customer look at is the payment relief or payment holiday which bank had provided. So these are three initiatives which we took, and in order of priority, I think we picked the right ones.
And was it also for both the companies and the individual? It was only dedicated for the business, this type of
yes.
initiatives?
So it was for both, for individuals, SME, as well as for the bigger clients, because payment relief is a requirement of individual like you and me, and also a requirement of companies who had been impacted because of this pandemic. So cash is the lifeline of business, whether it is a bank or it's a commercial enterprise. So in such times, if you allow them payment holidays, their focus is to rebuild the business once the lockdown is over, as against they have to worry about repaying their debt. So it was for both individual and SMEs both.
That's very good, Dhiraj, you have mentioned that this pandemic was unpredictable. So definitely, I'm sure that you people have been using some tools that was never used before. So was there any such kind of this act or behavior you have made that you start using some tools you never used it before just because of this crisis?
Yeah, Esam, at the personal front, I haven't used so much of kitchen utensils before, or I haven't used a scissor to do my hair. At the personal front, that was a learning.
That's what I see on YouTube also.
Yes, I've been doing it all myself, so you can imagine. On the professional front, I haven't used Zoho or Microsoft Meet or WebEx as much we have used as an organization in last 2 months. So that was a clear shift. Though banks has access to technologies, it's not that bank is unknown to such technologies, but the quantum and scale at which we have used such remote meeting platforms was unimaginable. So that was something that we did with full scale. On the work from home example, the banks do operate on remote network, but because of the regulation and information security, we usually don't provide work from home access to many employees. But having safeguard in place and having the clear roadmap agreed with information security, we did allow our back office operation to operate from work from home. So these are two distinct changes. While these are not new technologies, but scale and magnitude was definitely something that we haven't dreamed of.
Yeah, absolutely true, because banking never been there to work from home, and especially during the security. Security is very, very important matter here to have the access. Dhiraj, you are the one who's in charge of the business at the RAKBANK, and let's talk about the SMEs. To help your SME customers in a highly digitalized economy, what changes did you as a company that made, and you think that will be a permanent for the SMEs?
So on Esam, on two fronts, we saw a clear pattern that in such times, even customer doesn't want to walk into a branch. unless it is mandatory to do so. So we had embarked upon certain changes in the branch processes and digitize almost every process which a customer would require. Then on the cash transactions, we all know that cash is not only inefficient payment mode for customers, it is also inefficient for banks to deal with large amount of physical cash. So we have taken some initiative to have cash done through mobile cash, even if you're not a customer. So if I have to pay to you, I'll not give you cash, but I'll give you a code which you can use in RAKBANK ATM. So mobile cash is a technology which we think that it will become permanent feature of our banking services. And we have a lot of cash management products which allows customer to bank remotely and doesn't need to come to the branch. For example, in a lot of accountants of SMBs and accountant of corporations, they come to the branch for basic services because they don't have access to the account. Access is always given to the signatories. We launched something called Digital Access Card, where any accountant of the company, once authorized by the signatory, can have basic information. So they don't need to travel to the branch, they don't need to stand in the queue. So these are the changes which we think will become permanent because it brings value to the customer and it also brings value to the bank.
That's been implemented for both existing or the new one who wants to open a new bank account as a business?
Yes. So on the existing customers, that's something that I explained you. Or for the new customer, which is prospect, which has not become your customer yet, okay, we have launched digital onboarding. So if you want to open an account, you don't need to visit to the branch now. You can apply online. Legally, you need to have signature once. So our guy will come at your convenience and will get the signature. So you don't need to come to the branch. So these are things that which is making right kind of noise and music with the clients. And it is also helping the bank to streamline the process at the back end.
Then we need to have it to us as Etisalat and the RAKBANK as a bundle solution so that we can have an open account and also open Etisalat services all bundled together. For especially
sure. That is where the market is going. That's where the market
is helping at their doorstep. Yeah. Dhiraj, we know that the business has been affected badly with the crisis, and they have been also disruptives in their daily work and daily activities. As an expert, what do you think the best advice you can give to those SMEs to recover from this crisis?
Yeah, I mean, my little experience in this sector always advised me that if you have basics right, so if you have your right business model, even at times like this, if you have a lean and thin structure, or if you have a successful digital engagement with your supplier and customer, you can still survive. So the best advice I would want to give to our SMB partners are that it's not about having swanky offices, it's not about having a well drafted marketing campaign. It's more about a value which you impart to your customer, which can be imparted on the channels which are available to you. So if you're cost efficient, if you're lean and thin, you can still survive because there is still business to be done.
That's absolutely right. I mean, that's a good advice that I would suggest also to all the SMEs to take and have, especially with the current situations. And Dhiraj, let me just ask a question also about the opportunities. I mean, what are the opportunities do you see in the banking sector or any other industries reasons that's due to this global pandemic? And this will also help the SMEs industries. So what is your experience? What is your thought about this?
Again, it's interesting one. For the large corporation like banks or telcos, it's a time to relook at your processes and see whether we need so much of infrastructure which was there, whether we need the technologies which are running old now, or should we reinvent and employ technologies which is more nimble, which is more dynamic, or should we keep on doing the same which we have been doing for ages? So for bigger operations, it is time to introspect. For the smaller companies, they don't have so much of infrastructure at their disposal. So for smaller companies, they need to differentiate their business model based on are they supplying need of the customer or want of the customer? So there's a difference between need and want. So food, shelter and clothing is a need, but expensive watch or expensive car may be a want. So in times like this, people don't invest or spend money on their want and desires, but they do spend on their basic livelihood. So any businesses which deals with consumer, either it's food stuff or clothing or wellness, medical, hospital, healthcare, those businesses are expected to do well. But above all, if you put technology as a forefront and as a key differentiating driver, so some technology company itself will survive because the technology will take priority over the traditional means. But even if you're not a technology company, if you can use technology for having cost advantage or for more customer convenience, I think you have got the code which will survive.
That's a good code and a good advice for the SMEs which really need the takers. I believe Dhiraj, like any other large enterprise and like the other companies, they have revisited their strategies. They have revisited their priorities because of this pandemic. So as a banking, what are the top priorities that you have set for the company for the coming 12 to 18 months, let's say?
So Esam, as you know, banks are a regulated sector and a very primary economic driver. So for bank, the next 18 months would be more towards continuity and stability, where they continue providing product and services to their customers, and they are resilient to the tides in the economic activity we have seen of late. So for us, our priority remains continuity, stability, and providing relief and providing assistance to our existing customer. See, today, the pain we have seen in the marketplace tells us that we have to go and provide assistance to the client. Sometimes it may not be enough, sometimes it may not be to the customer's expectation, but we have to keep doing and work with client so that all of us together survives through this crisis.
Talking about the clients, okay, do you see any changes of their behavior or their demands due to this pandemics?
I think
especially for the SMEs, at least. I mean,
yes, I think you would have seen in your business also that SMBs use digital as a preferred mode of communication now. So if you see in business across, their preference is clearly towards a digital channel as against a branch network. So that's the clear shift. And that shift was visible even before the pandemic hit us. But on the other hand, they're also liking something that you initially talked about, is bundling product and proposition. They're not looking as bank as a traditional bank. They're not looking telcos at traditional telcos. They're expecting us to do far more beyond banking or far more beyond telecom services. I also got an interesting feedback on Etisalat offering, where Etisalat was bundling the security cameras with the business packages. This is something that clients look at. So this is what the power of network is. This is what the power of platform is. And in many ways, it's an example that you have set by hosting Etisalat Hub Zone, where customer can benefit out of the network of credible partners, and customer can get, because individual customer or a SMB customer, they don't have time, energy and cost to go and explore everything themselves. So in our banking network as well, we have launched something called SME Souk, where we bring partners like yourself, we give content to customers, and we also give deals. So today's product and services in the digital era is not limited to the core product. Sometimes the starter and dessert is as important as the main course, as they say.
Exactly. Dhiraj, do you see that being agile or being speed in execution, the task or the works is becoming as a competitive advantage? And if yes, do we see that the RAKBANK also will do some changes to be more agile on reacting or doing execution of work and activities
See, agility and speed has always been a differentiator, provided you do it well. There's no fun in doing the fastest and the best if you don't get it right. So as long as the proposition is right and your speed to market is better than the competition, customer does give you a premium for that. But for small companies, sometimes uh, the journey of being the first is tricky, because when you want to be first in everything, you also expose yourself for failures of the new experiment. So for small customer, my advice would be to be fast to market. Does not necessarily means that you have to be first to market. You have to strive to get
Right.
the right product and services in a reasonable time, as against fastest delivery of a bad food.
Dhiraj, you have talked about the clouds. You have talked about the securities. You have also mentioned that you people are planning to enable the SMEs customers to open an accounts without the need of coming physically, which means online. All these things about the digital. So, what are RAKBANK plans to accelerate the digitalizations, and especially on the SME sites?
Yes, Esam. I think our journey towards innovating our digital journey started 2.5 years ago. So it was not limited to the impact pandemic had in the process, but more about continuing the journey itself. So our innovation stream hovers around three main pillars. One is to give an onboarding platform to customers so the customer can apply all product and services online. The second, how do we collaborate with government authorities on putting a centralized registry? For example, know your customer. For banks, it is very important to exchange documents. So there are technologies are available now with partners like blockchain, where a government authority can host the KYC registry of the entire country at one place, and which can be shared by all participants, including telcos. The third advent, which we have seen more so now, is that you need to be more agile in giving the option to the customer, whether customer wants to do a web chat, customer wants to do a mobile chat, customer wants to do a web chat. So the customer changing preferences needs to be responded to in terms of the new technologies. So as the customer behavior and preferences changing, the bank needs to adapt. So it's adapt or perish.
Dhiraj, I do understand that you are very, very busy, and we have taken a slot of your times to share with us on your expertise and to be part of our SMB Talks. I have one last question for you, and I really need the answer for it. I mean, in ways that what role do you see that technology could play as a main activity or as a main role after the COVID-19 situation?
See, technology was ruling the roost even before the pandemic hit us. If you see and if you follow the market of last 2 months, even in pandemic, the likes of Google, Amazon, and Microsoft are trading on their lifetime high. So of course, market is giving premium that technology company will be the one which will be guiding and shaping the future of the world. Now, if you take that example in our own industries like banking and telcos, technology will be a very important part. But all of us, the business leaders, needs to adapt and work on a business model which is client centric. For example, Uber is a technology company, and so is Airbnb. They're not hotels and they're not car rental companies.
Exactly.
But they serve millions and millions of customers because technology has allowed them to do so. Maybe a day will come where bank and telcos will also become Ubers and Airbnbs of the world. So that's how technology is impacting our lives.
So Dhiraj, thank you very much. I do appreciate your time. And also it's our pleasure having you as one of the expertise in our SMB Talks. Thank you very much, and hopefully you enjoy your day. Stay safe.
Thank you, Esam. Thank you, Esam, and have a good day.
You too. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.